Hey everybody, Michelle here. Today we have a fun little tutorial. I had one of my viewers ask me to do a tutorial on how to use the Zutter Bind It All. This tutorial will also work with the cinch, and I'm going to show you how I use it. And we are going to make a notebook using the new Country Craft Creations Country Bunny card fronts and a little bit of the Country Bunny pattern paper that I had in my stash. I can't wait to share this with you. I hope you like it. This is Michelle with Creative Operation and Country Craft Creations, and today I have a tutorial for you, a little bit different. What I'm doing is making a notebook using my Zutter Bind It All. This is an old machine. I know that a lot of people have the cinch now. I just literally, like last week, bought a new multi-cinch, and I haven't even played with it yet. But I have been using my Zutter Bind It All for years and years, and I, am pretty familiar with it and use it quite a bit. And I have done some videos where I've showed some notebooks that I was making, and then I had a request to show how to use the Bind It All. Now, I'm not like an expert on the Bind It All. I'm just going to show you how I do things with it. So we're going to get started with that, and I'll just kind of give you a little bit of hints and tips of what I've kind of figured out with using them. So again, this is the Zutter Bind It All, and it was put out, oh gosh, a long time ago. I don't even know. I did, before I did the video, try to look up the company, and like I can't find, it's like it's gone. I don't know. I don't know what happened with it on Google, but it is like gone. So anyway, I tried to look up some other things, couldn't find anything. There's lots of videos out there of people showing you how to use this machine. But again, my focus is to show you how I use it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a notebook using the new card fronts from Country Craft Creations. This is the Country Bunny, and I just got this in my design team package a couple days ago, or a couple weeks ago. And then a couple days ago, I made a like a do-si-do book with a pamphlet stitch. I sewed it in there. I'll have that link down below. But today I thought I would use this to show you how I would figure out how to make a notebook using these card fronts. And then you can kind of apply everything, excuse me, to, other sizes. So let's get started. So just to get started with the machine, this has the hole punch, and they are the rectangular cut holes. You can see that's what it's going to look like when you do punch them. It has the lever here that not only punches, but it also squeezes the O-wires, and they do use, these kinds of O-wires. I have not all the sizes. Apparently there's lots of sizes, but I have like some 1 inch, 1.5 inch, I have 3/4 and 1/2, and that seems to be, kind of like the standard of what I had. I have a huge stash of them right now because honestly, now you can't find them anywhere, but that's what I have. This has a back piece that pulls out, and it helps it be stable for when you're punching. One of the things that you do have to be careful with is if this is adjustable, and it adjusts to the size of the rings that you're going to put in there and bind. You do have to be careful because when you do the punch, this will squeeze. And if you have this really set low, you could potentially like pinch your fingers. So you got to be careful with that. That's one thing about it. That is interesting. My Zutter did come with some guides. So like, for example, today we are going to use 3/4 inch rings, and these guides are really kind of cool because you can actually, if you have a bunch of like loose rings and you really aren't sure what size it is, you can match them up to the image on the thing, and you can see how big they actually are. So I'm going to use the 3/4 inch ring. And then the other thing that these do is that you can put them in here and tighten this to be, the perfect tightness for squeezing the rings, okay? So you put it in there, you tighten it up, and then you can pull it out. There is a guide here that shows you that, and it seems to usually be a little bit off, at least on my machine, so I'm just going to tighten it just a little bit more to match the lines. So they have measurements here to tell you which one, you know, to line it up with, okay? So anyway, there's that. So that's basically kind of the machine. Now, it has a bunch of settings on the side. I'll turn it here. When I use it in open, and then I use it in like continuous. Those are the two settings I use. I usually don't mess with cover and inner pages because that's just too much math. Because there are actually in the instructions, there are different sizes for like covers and then what pages to use to do the thing, and you don't have to measure, but I don't do that. So I'm going to show you how I do it, and it's the easy thing to do, especially if you don't have the book, you don't have the chart, you don't want to deal with that, you just want to kind of freeform it. So open, and this means that this little black thing is open all the way to the A position, means that you can put your papers in any way you want. There's no stopping them as far as width. You can put them and start setting them any way it goes. Continuous means that once you have punched, you have this little nubbin here that will actually go through the holes here, and then you can line your papers up perfectly to punch more holes. And I'll show you that when we do our project, because I'm going to use that kind of function. But that's basically the two things that I use, okay? And it works for everything that I've ever wanted to do. So I'm not going to mess with the cover and the inner pages thing today because I don't flat use it. So that's kind of the basics of the machine. So always remember to have it on a nice flat surface. This bit here, it does telescope in, but make sure when you're using it, it's out, because it does stabilize the machine for when you're punching. It will punch through several layers of paper, as long as it fits in this slot nicely. And then just remember that this will also move when you punch, so don't pinch your fingers or get anything in the way that you don't want smashed, okay? So then what you need to do, let's put this off to the side for a sec. So here's the project that I'm going to make, and I'll give you some measurements here. So the card fronts from Country Craft Creations are gorgeous, so you can make greeting cards with them, and we have several different varieties of themes, and they're based off the exclusive Country Craft Creations papers. This one happens to be Country Bunny. It's absolutely adorable. The card fronts are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so you can put them right onto a card blank and do a little decorating if you want, and then you have a beautiful greeting card. On the back, I did decide to put one on the back as well. So these are 2 of the 4 that you get in the pack when you get those packs. Just super cute. So I was going with the bunny theme, okay, and I don't know which one I actually want on the front, which one I want on the back. I mean, they're both too super cute. So what I ended up doing was I took a piece of chipboard, and I cut it at 4 1/2 by 5 3/4. So it's a 1/4 inch bigger than the card front, because again, the card front is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I just covered the chipboard with some Artisan Cardstock, and then covered the inside, and I just cut this the same as the card front, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, just to kind of make the cover. And then I took my papers, and this is just plain old printer copy paper, but it is 28-pound paper. I tend to use thicker paper at home in my projects and stuff. So again, this is 28-pound, so it is thicker. This is actually 50 sheets of paper. If you had 20 pounds, you could probably, you know, get a little bit more in a 3/4 inch ring. We're going to talk about that in a second too. But I cut 50 pieces, and what I did was I took my 8 1/2 by 11, cut it at 5 1/2, and then cut it at 4 1/4. So basically cut that 8 1/2 by 11 in quarters, and got the same size for my pages, okay? So when you look at your pages, you know, they're going to be inside your cover, okay? So your cover will stick out around the pages, okay? So that's what I did. So I've got a front cover, I've got my pages, and I got my back cover. So the first thing we need to do is punch. I wanted to show you on a scrap piece of paper what I usually do, okay? So it doesn't matter really which size paper you use. What I always do is I start in the center. So I've got this piece opened all the way to open, and I stick it in my machine, and then I grab my centering ruler, and I use that to help me move my paper to make sure that it is centered, okay? So I hope that makes sense. You can see it. There's a center line right here on your machine, okay? So that's right in between the 6 holes that are gonna punch. So I just put my paper in, and I line up my 0 on my zeroing ruler with the machine, and then I can adjust my paper, okay? And then punch, okay? So that should be perfectly centered in that. Make sure your paper's all the way down, because if you don't, if you have it in crooked and you punch, then you're gonna get a problem here. So always make sure that your paper is all the way down, okay? And then once you do that, so you have a choice to make depending on the size of your project. You could stop here and just use 6 holes, or you could go a little bit more. So one of the things that I do is I refer to my little Zutter guide that I made. And what I took was a piece of 12-inch paper, started at the center, and I punched all the way. So I could lay this on a project. And let me grab another piece of that size paper that I was practicing with, and I'll show you. You could take it and you could set it down, and you can kind of eyeball and see how many holes you actually want to punch. So if you look at this, if I center this on my little guide here, get my fingers out of the way so you can see. So this dashed line right here is the center. Did I get it centered? No, I didn't quite get it centered. There we go. That's about centered. Okay, so if I start at the center and I just keep punching, what's gonna happen is, here's the 3 to the side of the center. I'm gonna end up punching a little bit out of a square here. So I don't want to really do that. I don't want to go all the way. So what this is telling me is that when I start at the center and I do my first 3 punches, I only want to go 2 squares past that. I don't want to do another full 3. I want to just do 2 more after that on either side. That's the most that I'm going to do. And then I'll do the same thing on the cover. Okay. So let me show you how that looks. Okay, so I have the first punch done. Now what I want to do is I want to put 2 more holes here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line these holes up with this, and I'm going to start with this one because I'm going to go to the left to punch 2 holes, and I want to punch these 2 holes right here. So I'm going to put my paper in the machine so you can kind of see, if I push this down so you can kind of see, I'm going to line my paper up in here like this, and this hole here is going to go into this nubbin here, and that's going to help secure the paper, make sure that my holes are all lined up right, and then when it punches, it'll punch through these holes again, which is no big deal, and then it's going to add those 2 holes. Okay, so I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to put that in there. You just have to look at it when you're doing this, but you can do it with any size paper. So you can see that little nubbin there, when I pushed it in, holds the paper in place. Okay. Whoops. Hit my, and then I got my 2 holes. So I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to do the same thing. So again, I'm going to line up my 2 holes, and I know which hole my little nubbin has to go in. So I'm going to close that. Everything's in place. Make sure everything's down. And I'm going to punch. And then I've got all my holes. Okay, so then I just have to repeat the process for all my papers. Now this was just a practice piece to show you. Okay, we're gonna do it. I'll do it one more time on camera with the papers, and then I'll take, I don't know, I could take a stack of them because quite a bit can fit in here. I may have to stand up and get a little heft on here, but I'm gonna put them in my machine. Again, I'm gonna line them up. Make sure that everything is centered. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it around just because it'll be a little bit easier, I think, maybe. Okay. And then we have our holes punched. Now I need to do 2 here. So I'm going to line it up, pop it in my machine, and push that little nubbin to continuous. So all of my papers now are through that hole, okay? Let's see. And then pop that open, and there you have it, okay? I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to do it again. Make sure my holes are lined up. Pop that through the hole like that, okay? I'm going to punch the rest of the papers, and then we'll come back and do the covers. Okay, I have my pages all punched. They all look pretty good. I like that. Then what we're going to do is work on the covers. So you have to decide which one is the front and which one's the back. Okay, that's the hard part right now. I think I like this one as the front because of all the wording, but gosh, I don't know. It's so cute, but this cute little bunny is just hiding. I don't know. Let's just go ahead and make this the front. We'll make this the back. So we're going to take the front, punch it right here. Okay. So now this is different size, so we'll have to put it in, and it's thick, so it's a little bit tight, but this is going to line up at 2 7/8 because of the way that I cut it. So basically all you have to do is find the center of whatever you're using. That's all you have to do. That's a good starting point, and then you can go either way, and you don't have to worry about formulas and measurements and all that stuff, okay? So it's a little hard because of the angle that I'm in. So I punched it, okay? Again, make sure that you have it all the way down, but there's that first set of punches. So then I want to pass that again. So we're just doing the same process with the cover, okay? So I am still going to pop that nubbin in there just to make sure everything's stable and where it needs to be. Sorry for the reach there. Okay. So I have the top 2. Okay. Then I'm going to turn it over, do the other side. So if you have the Zutter, make yourself a little ruler, and you can kind of use it to help gauge how many holes you want, okay? So there's that one. Now the back cover is going to be punched on this side, right? Because when you put it on your book, that's where your coils are going to be. So just make sure you punch the correct side. So we'll start this way. We'll pop it in and do this again. So I will center, punch my initial set of holes, which are 6, and then I'm going to go 2 past those, just like I just did. Same thing. Okay. There we go. Bad angle. Bad angle. Okay. First set of holes on the proper side. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and put it back in here. 2 past. And put that in there so the holes are definitely lined up. Whoops, sorry. I hit the camera with, or the arm with my head. I've been gardening all day too, and my hands and my arm hurt. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm going to pop that in, line up the holes, last punch. Okay. So I have my holes punched. Okay. So then what we need to do is bind it. Now let's talk about the binding. We'll put our book the way it's supposed to be, the way it's going to be bound, and you can see, I don't know if you can see or not, but the holes are lining up pretty perfectly. So then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we have 10. So we got our O wire. Now, how to figure out how big of an O wire you need. The general rule of thumb is you measure the project width, or, you know, how thick it is. And then you go up a size or two. So this is a 1/2 inch. So if you go up one size, it would be 3/4 of an inch. So you add 1/4 of an inch. If you go up 2 sizes, it would be 1 inch. I think 1 inch might be a little bit big for this project. So I decided I was going to use a 3/4 inch wire. Okay. Now I already showed you how to set the machine. There are measurements here with all the paper fuzzies. So you can look at it and you can twist this to 3/4. Then you also have your guides, which will help because you can also use those to make sure, and you want it to fit pretty tight in there when you do it because you want your wires to close properly, okay? So I tend to try to make, when I'm using these, use it really, really tight to do that, okay? So then you have your wires. So when you are counting your wires, you'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we need these 10 wires here, okay? This part right here is where you're going to snip. Okay, and then let's make sure I didn't miscount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I did. I cut 11. Let's try that again. I know how to count. I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I have 10. So you do need wire cutters for that. I forget how many come in a full strand of these. I could look that up. All right, so then when you are getting ready to bind, what you want to do is take the back cover, put it on the front cover. So what you're going to do is, like as if you were just flipping your book, you're going to flip it that way, okay? So if you look at it from the top side, I've got my cover here, my back cover here. You're just going to turn it around to the front like you're opening your book, okay? And then what you're going to do is take your wires and you're going to thread it through the covers like so, and then through your pages, okay? So why you do this is because when this closes, it will anchor the back of the book like so, okay? You see how those wires are catching the back of the book? And that's what you want, okay? So again, put the back cover onto the front and then thread your wires from the covers first through your pages, okay? Last part, I think, is probably the hardest part for me. You really need to make sure your wires are flat against the base of this when you do this, okay? They really need to be flat on this to get your wires to close properly, and you want all of your pages like right on top, okay? And then basically you're going to put this in. Now, when you press this, you can see this is the area that's going to squish, okay? So it's not going to squish all of the wires at the same time. What I'm going to try and do, I'm going to look at it sideways, I think. Well, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll go up here. Oh, I hit the camera again with my head. Sorry, guys. I'm going to do this. It's going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll do 6 wires at a time. So I want to make sure those are right in there. Make sure it's flat. And squeeze. And then your wires will be closed. And then move it down. Make sure everybody's happy here. And squeeze. And then you're done. That is how you do it. Then you take your book, you put your back cover back where it goes. It is attached, lined up, and everybody's happy. And you can see that you have plenty of room for your pages to flip. 3/4 of an inch was great for this book since its thickness was only 1/2 inch. And that is basically how I do it. Now, again, I am not a Zutter expert, but that is how I do it. I don't fuss with if it's a cover or if it's pages. I cut what I want, and then I start from the center and I work my way out. Make yourself a guide so that you can kind of put it against anything. I do that with like punches as well, with decorative edges. So if I have a piece of paper that's like this, I can line it up and see where my edges are gonna go, and I know where to start my punches. That's just what I do. So this is handy dandy, and it'll take you like 5 minutes to make one. Just a strip of paper, start at the center, 12 inches long, and then you can use it as a guide, and you can just measure as you want. But there you go. So now what I can do with this is I can decorate, I can add pockets, I can put, still have some room to move, so I can put, you know, paper clips and clip things in here. But I have my nice little notebook, and this is a really nice pocket size. It will work great. All right. So that, and I like the fact that you can, you know, fold the covers back. You can do that. I think it's just really cool. So anyways, I use my Zutter a lot for notebooks and things like that. I think it's a great little tool. So I hope that answered the questions that we had about how to use the Zutter. That's how I use the Zutter. Yeah, that's what I got for you. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to decorate this, and I'll have a picture of this at the beginning of the video so you can see what I did. But yeah, these are card fronts from Country Craft Creations. This one is Country Bunny. 2 of the 4 designs are here. And then do check out my other tutorial with the Do-Si-Do book that I made and used the pamphlet stitch to sew it together. And I used 4 of these card fronts. I made 2 of them, and they turned out adorable, if I do say so myself. So thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll be back soon with other tutorials. All right, take care. Bye-bye.